Warm welcome, all of you. I'm Dr. Bulbule, working as an Assistant General Manager at Poultry Diagnostic and Research Center, Pune. Today, I'm going to talk on diagnosis of avian viral diseases. As all of us know, the poultry industry has evolved drastically over the last few decades. In spite of strict biosecurity measures and vaccinations, still disease outbreaks are reported in the field. So, the health status of poultry is and will be the major issue for the poultry industry. That's why diagnosis of diseases in early condition is very much important. So in today's presentation, we'll see the introduction about diseases, what are the current viral diseases circulating in the field, then diagnostic methods used in the laboratory, and lastly the conclusion. So all are familiar about these diseases. The respiratory tract infections are caused by the nuclear disease virus, avian influenza virus, infectious bronchitis virus, infectious laryngotracheitis virus, avian metapneumoviruses. So these are the diseases which are major problem for the poultry industry worldwide. Then second problem is due to immunosuppressive agent. It includes infectious bursal disease, chicken anemia viruses, and fowl adenoviruses. Then third problem is the tumor causing agent. It includes Marek disease, evenleucosis complex, reticuloendotheliosis virus. The next is the enteric issues or enteric problems are caused by the revoviruses, chicken astroviruses, chicken parvoviruses. Then nervous disease is caused by the avian encephalomyelitis and fowl viruses. These are also important. So the poultry diseases is the constant threat. As I already explained, majority of the diseases in the field are viral origin and viruses are the nasty. As the surface protein of viruses keep changes or there is evolution of viruses due to recombination, reassortment, point mutation, antigenic shift, antigenic drift. So the emergence or re-emergence of viruses is the familiar event for the poultry industry. As I already explained, immunosuppression is also plays a major important role, and there are a lot of factors are responsible for the immunosuppression. And immunosuppressed birds are more prone to respiratory infections, which leads high morbidity, high mortality, and reduced response to the vaccinations. So these are the challenges. These are the OIE listed diseases for the avian species by the World Organization for Animal Health. Now, the diagnostic tests are context based, so it has a specific purpose or specific application. So certain tests are used to demonstrate the freedom from infections in a defined population. Certain tests are used to certify the freedom from infection or presence of agent, and mainly it is used in the trade purpose or prior to movement. Certain tests are used for the eradication of disease or elimination of infection from a defined population. Certain tests are used to confirm the diseases from the suspected or clinical cases. Certain diagnostic tests are used for the surveillance purpose, and certain diagnostic tests are used for the used after post vaccination. So there is a specific purpose or fit for purpose is defined by the OI. Now we'll see what are the key points for the investigation of disease. First important point is the flock history. Detailed history of flock is very much important. It includes age of birds, flock size, then vaccination history, management history. So it includes all the details about the flock. Next comes the examination of the flock. Thorough examination of flock is important. Then examination of individual bird. Then post-mortem examination. Detailed postmortem examination will give you the clue about the disease or disease causing agent. So all these factors, we can rule out the list of diseases, and some diseases are not diagnosed by using all the information, so that we can collect the samples for the laboratory investigation, and based on the investigation we can design a strategy for the control and prevention. So now we'll see the practical approaches for the diagnosis of viral diseases. Yes, diagnosis is possible by clinical examination. Then rapid field diagnostic test can be used. Mainly it is used for the avian influenza. Then histopathology, serology, molecular techniques like PCR and real-time PCR are used for the diagnosis purpose. Virus isolation and characterization, direct or indirect electron microscopy is used for the diagnostic purpose. Now, here you can see the hemorrhagic trachea, then hemorrhages on the pinpoint of proventricular glands. Here, ulcers in the intestine and venous congestion in the brain. Based on this postmortem finding, anyone can identify the disease. It is a Newcastle disease virus. But when conditions are like this in the trachea, then it is very difficult to diagnose the condition, exact cause of disease. So by looking all these pictures or all the lesions in the trachea, it's a respiratory complex, and there are number of factors responsible for this complex. So that's why differential diagnosis is very much important. And on the basis of clinical signs, symptoms, and gross lesion, it is difficult to diagnose in some cases. So it is important for correct treatment and prevention of disease. So the identification of primary pathogen and at the same time treatment of secondary pathogen is very much important. So the differential diagnosis is important steps in any investigation. Then first step comes is the collection of material or collection of sample. So proper collection of morbid material from dead or sick bird is of paramount importance. Proper timing of sample collection is also important. Correct sample of choice for investigation. Then sample size, or we can pool the samples for the further processing. Now we'll see the specimen or sample collection. From the live birds, we can collect the swab samples. Here you can see the venal swabs, then tracheal swabs, and cloacal swabs. These samples can be collected in the viral transport medium, or we can put those swabs onto the FTA cards and we can dry it and we can send to the laboratory. Then from the dead bird, we can do the necropsy and we can collect the samples, and we can collect the samples on ice or in a transport medium. Simultaneously, we should collect the samples for histopathology also, and the samples should be collected in a 10% formalin. Then for serological assay also, we can collect the blood sample. Generally, pure serum sample is important if the diagnosis or if the investigation is based on the serology. Now, for the sample collections for the different viral diseases, for adenoviruses, we should collect the liver, feces, and spleen sample. For egg drop syndrome, we should collect the pouch shell gland. For IIT, we should collect the tracheal swabs or tracheal scraping or penile swab. In IIT, the sample should be collected from the early stage of incubation period, or it should be collected from morbid bird. For Marek disease, yes, we should collect the blood or tumor samples. For pox viruses, we should collect the scab. And if it is wet pox, we should collect the trachea. For chicken anemia virus, yes, lymphoid organs like a spleen, thymus, bursa, bone marrow. These are the sample of choice for the investigation purpose. For the respiratory disease complex, yes, we need to collect the trachea, lung, ear sacs, cloacal swabs. For the avian influenza, Newcastle disease, avian metapneumovirus, or infectious bronchitis virus. As we all know that infectious bronchitis also causes the nephritis or gout, so we should collect the uh, kidney samples for the investigations of this nephropathogenic infectious bronchitis virus. For avian leukosis complex, we should collect the blood, then egg albumin, tumor sample, these and meconium samples from the cheeks. For avian encephalitis virus, yes, brain sample is a sample of choice. For reoviruses, there are two forms, arthritis form and the enteric form or digestive form. So from arthritis form, we should collect the synovial fluid or tibiotarsal joint. For digestive form or enteric form, we should collect the spleen, cloaca, and intestine. Yes, for IBD, Bursa fabricis is the sample of choice. For avian nephritis virus and chikungunya viruses, we should collect the kidney samples, cloacal swabs, and for avian hepatitis C virus, bile, spleen, and liver is the sample of choice. After collection, transportation of sample is the second step. So, if the sample collected from the farm and the lab, the distance is very less, you can collect the samples and shortly you can go to the laboratory. If the distance is longer or time is required more, that time you can collect the samples on a and you should keep those samples on ice and maintain a cold chain. That is very much important. Also, we can use the viral transport medium like a 50% GPBS or PBS, and we can use the freezing agents like a 10% DMS. So transportation should be done as early as possible, and it is extremely important to keep the samples on ice or cold chain should be maintained. Then histopathology. Yes, histopathology significantly contributes to an immediate diagnosis and narrow down the further differential diagnosis. So, based on histopathology, the lesions can be categorized as a pathognomic, suggestive, or non-specific. Histopathology is very much important in the differential diagnosis of tumors like MD and ALV. It is possible to differentiate based on HP. We can give the confirmatory diagnosis if the antigen detection is carried out in the tissues by using immunohistochemistry or immunofluorescent test. Sometimes we can use the formalin fixed paraffin embedded tissues for the DNA and RNA extraction, and we can detect the agents in the formalin fixed tissues also. So that is also one advantage. Here you can see the processing carried out in histopathology. Yes, here you can see the intranuclear inclusion bodies uh, in the infectious laryngotracheitis viruses, virus infected cells. Here, this is intranuclear inclusion bodies in the adenoviruses. Fowl pox virus also causes the intracytoplasmic inclusion bodies. So now come to virus isolation. So basically there are three methods for virus isolation. First one is the emulated chicken egg inoculation. Second one is a cell culture. Third one is a animal inoculation. So all the viruses will not be isolated in one system. So we need to use a specific host system for the virus isolation. Certain viruses can be isolated by using embryonated chicken egg, and certain viruses are isolated by using cell culture. Either primary cell culture, it includes chicken embryo fibroblast, chicken embryo liver culture, or certain cell lines are used for the isolation purpose. So, and certain viruses which are not adapting into the in vitro system, that time we can inoculate the samples into the birds, and we can see the we can isolate, or we can see the effect of viruses on the bird. Then comes to the molecular diagnostic. Yes, it offers a wide range of new methods for rapid diagnosis, and molecular techniques are able to accelerate and improve the diagnosis of poultry disease. There are different techniques or different assays are available in the molecular diagnostic, but mainly conventional gel-based PCR or real-time PCR and DNA sequencing is commonly used for the diagnostic purpose. Now, what are the advantages of molecular diagnosis? Yes, these are the sensitive, specific, high speed, and there is no limit for detecting new or atypical organisms. So, polymerase chain reaction, as I already explained, there are DNA and RNA viruses. For DNA viruses, we need to carry out polymerase chain reaction. For RNA viruses, we need to first from RNA to DNA, we call it as a cDNA preparation. That method is a reverse transcriptase, so we call it as a reverse transcriptase PCR. And when we do the quantitative PCR or real-time PCR, we call it as a QRT PCR. There are different variants of PCR, like a nested PCR, multiplex PCR, duplex PCR, MAMA PCR. So there are different variants of PCR. Basically, in PCR, there are three methods like a denaturation, then annealing, and extension. So after post PCR, you have to run the that PCR product on gel, and you have to look the specific size of product. If the specific size product is there, then it is a positive. If there is a no band, then we call it as a negative. So these are the different PCR machines which we are using at PDRC. Now come to real-time PCR. Yes, real-time PCR. There are several variants of real-time PCR and different chemistries, but Tachman assay and Cybergreen assays are most commonly used techniques or chemistries in the real-time PCR. Now we'll see what are the advantages over the classical or conventional PCR. Yes, it is a faster and high throughput assay. Post PCR handling of the product is not needed, not required. It is highly sensitive as compared to conventional PCR. Yes, we can do the quantitative assay, and which are more accurate. It is less time consuming and suitable for multiplexing. So we'll see the recipe of real-time PCR. Mainly, it is a Tachman probe chemistry. So in this assay, we need forward primer and reverse primer, and the probe which has a labeling for probe is labeled at 5' with the reporter dye, and at 3' it is with the quenching dye. Now we'll see the principle of real-time PCR. The probe has two fluorescent dye, that is a reporter and quencher. During each extension cycle, tag DNA polymerase cleavage reporter dye from the probe. If desired product is there, the primer binds to the template. Then probe also bind. Once there is a proper binding, then the reporter dye is separated. So the fluorescence intensity increases with each cycle as more fluorochrome is released. So this reporter dye is captured by the camera, and the machine will take the reading. So after real-time PCR or during real-time PCR, we can analyze the data. And this is the amplification plot. Here you can see the in this assay, we use the sample, positive control and negative control, and based on this reaction, machine will capture And here you can see the results like this. Anything which crosses the CT value, we call it as cycle threshold. Actually it is the fluorescent which crosses the fixed threshold. Anything which crosses the CT value is a positive. Here you can see the positive control has crossed the CT value and sample also, but negative control or negative sample is below that threshold. Now comes to the sequencing. Yes, it is a process of determining the nucleotide orders, and DNA sequence can separate microbe at least at a genus level and is mostly used microbial identification method for broad range of PCR. So there are different methods for the DNA sequencing. First one is chain termination method. We call it as a Senger's method. Then chemical degradation method, that is a Maxim Gilbert method. And next is the next generation sequencing. There are different platforms to carry out the NGS. Uh, it includes Illumina, Ion Torrent, Ion Proton, pyrosequencing. So most commonly, Senger's method is used in the field. This is the machine which we are using at PDRC. It's a 3500 DNA sequencer. And what are the application of this sequencing? Yes, we can characterize the pathogen at genomic level. We can detect the variants. We can characterize its biological properties of different genes of the viruses or the um, agents. Then we can analyze the phylogenetic tree, and which we can highlight the close relationship among or within the families of viruses, which are low, moderate, or extremely variable or identical by using the DNA data published in the NCBI or the gene bank. So we can take those data and our sequences, and we can align it, and we can check whether how much it is identical, how much it is variant, or whether they matches with the vaccine strains. Like that, we based on that we can analyze the gene sequences. So this is the raw data uh, after sequencing we used to get, and this data is used for the blast purpose, and based on the blast we can take the sequences and we can construct the phylogenetic tree, and we can analyze how much it is identical, how much it is variation, and also we can look the changes in the amino acids of the genes. So now come next is the metagenomic. It is a sequencing of DNA extracted from the environmental samples. Metagenomic and deep sequencing techniques can detect the unknown agent, so we call it as a pathogen mining. So many of laboratories are applying this technology for the virus discovery studies. Now come to the serological surveillance. Yes, it is important tool for the disease diagnosis and monitoring of the flock health. As I already explained, paired serum samples are required. So it is a retrospective diagnostic method. Then the detection of virus-specific antibodies in the serum sample provide a convenient way of determining the extent of virus infection within animal population. Then these serological assays are used as an adjunct to a diagnosis, but not a replacement for virus isolation. So these are the different serological tests. Includes HI, AGPT, virus neutralization test, ELISA, FAT, IPT, Western blot, and rapid lateral flow kits. OIE has recommended certain immunodiagnostic tests for the infectious diseases of poultry, for IBD, AGID, and ELISA, for MD, AGID. For bacterial diseases, agglutination and HI tests are recommended. For infectious bronchitis, yes, there are several serotypes in the field. That's why virus neutralization test, HI and ELISA test are recommended. ILT, we can use the AGID, virus neutralization test, and ELISA. For avian influenza, HI test is the gold standard test. and for ND also it is HI test is used. But most commonly in the field, ELISA tests are used for the sero monitoring purpose. Here, now, how to confirm your clinical diagnosis? So this is the graph which plotted days post infection or days post challenge and how the virus levels are, how the antibody levels are. That based on that, here you can see the in early stage we can do the direct detection of viruses by using qRT-PCR or PCR, or we can collect the samples for virus isolation, or we can do rapid field test. But after 2 weeks or after certain days post infection, we can collect the serum samples or blood samples for the to check the antibodies by using HI or ELISA test. So, what are the limitation of laboratories? Yes, proper sampling, or if the sample is contaminated, the results you will get the erroneous results. Proper selection of diagnostic test is also important. Emergent or re-emerging pathogen, yes, there is change in the virus. That's why we need to update the diagnostic methods or diagnostic primers continuously to check the changes into the pathogens. Then carryover contamination due to continuous working with the pathogen. Sometimes laboratory contamination will leads to the false positive or false negative results. That is the problem. Then cross reactivity between the different viruses or antibodies. Then cost of reagent and consumable is also very much important. So lastly, conclusion. Yes, viral diagnosis process is not a simple. It is extremely dynamic and rapidly changing field. Different tests have different advantages and disadvantages. Therefore, the combination approach is necessary to fully understand the clinical picture. Poultry diagnostics require identification of primary disease and the contributing disease. Based on that, we can formulate or we can collectively, we know the pathogenesis. That's why we can design a strategies for the control and prevention of infections. Thank you for your attention.